Testosterone is overrated unless you optimize the androgen receptor. And the androgen receptor is basically a protein that testosterone or DHT bind to help it enter the cell. So what the androgen receptor mechanism is that it firstly starts with testosterone and DHT getting released from the Leydig cells or the adrenals, and then these two hormones travel throughout the bloodstream, and this is where the androgen receptor, where these two hormones bind to the androgen receptor and enter the cell and go to the nucleus and cause changes to your DNA to express more masculine genes like more muscle growth, more strength, higher bone density, facial hair, and so on. So without the androgen receptor, testosterone is effectively useless, and DHT, they're both useless to the body because they cannot cause changes without the androgen receptor. This goes to show how important your androgen receptor is for your masculinity and male vitality. So firstly, you have your androgen receptor sensitivity, which basically means how responsive and sensitive your androgen receptor is to your male hormones like testosterone and DHT. So the more responsive it is, the easier it will bind and lock on to each other. The easier the androgen receptor will lock onto your male hormone, and that means it basically makes it more easy to enter the cell and cause more changes. So having high androgen receptor sensitivity is important. Then we have your androgen receptor density, and this basically means how many androgen receptors you have in your body. So the more androgen receptors you have, the more testosterone and DHT will bind to it and cause changes inside your DNA. So if you have higher androgen receptor density and sensitivity, you will be able to respond more effectively overall to testosterone and DHT. You will be more sensitive to them, and the effects of these hormones will be more pronounced for you compared to another individual who has low androgen receptor sensitivity and androgen receptor density. So now that you know how important the androgen receptor is and how without it your testosterone is useless, how do we improve your androgen receptor sensitivity and your androgen receptor density? Well, firstly, before we improve it, we need to remove what's blocking it and suppressing it. And one of the main things that is blocking your androgen receptor is endocrine disruptors, specifically microplastics like BPA, BPS, and phytoestrogens and phthalates. So BPA, bisphenol A, is one of the most detrimental things to your androgen receptor because firstly, they bind to your androgen receptor without activating it and without causing changes. And secondly, they act like estrogens. They mimic estrogens, which makes your whole body, your whole hormonal system shift from being masculinized to being femininized in real time. This is how bad these chemicals are for your body. So you want to stop using plastic bottles, stop using plastic chopping boards, because these things are the most dense in BPA and endocrine disruptors in general. So drink from glass bottles, use a wooden chopping board, and stop drinking from plastic bottles. Another thing you need to do is to stop touching receipts, as they are one of the most dense items in BPA and contain 1,000 times more BPA than anything else. So they have the highest BPA content compared to anything else. So do not touch receipts, and if you have to touch receipts, use gloves or just take a picture of it or get an email receipt. So that will save you from being chemically castrated by BPA. Another thing you need to avoid for having good androgen receptor sensitivity is seed oils. Now, I know everyone's talking about seed oils and how they are good, and then some people are saying they are bad, but there have been studies showing that seed oils contain unsaturated fatty acids like oleic acid and arachidonic acid, which block the binding of the androgen receptor to testosterone or DHT. So stop using seed oils to cook your food. Instead, use butter or olive oil or ghee, which is what I use. So another thing you need to avoid is soy. Soy is basically this food that contains high amounts of phytoestrogens, which act like estrogens, but they're not actually estrogen. So stop eating soy because they contain high amounts of phytoestrogens, and phytoestrogens activate the estrogen receptors inside your body and decrease and downregulate your androgen receptors. So soy is actually been used for women, and you should stop eating soy products because they will negatively affect your androgen receptor and reduce your androgen receptor expression and density because it blocks it. So stop eating foods in soy, and especially processed soy. And another thing you need to avoid is using excessive sunscreen, because sunscreen contains a chemical called benzophenone, and benzophenone blocks the AR and blocks the androgen receptor. And when benzophenone from sunscreen is mixed with chlorine from swimming pools, it increases the benzophenone's ability of blocking the androgen receptor by 1,000 times. So if you're gonna wear sunscreen, don't go into the swimming pool and just avoid excessive use of sunscreen. You won't die if you get a bit of sunlight. So don't fall for the scam of sunlight causes cancer. Excessive sunlight might cause cancer, but daily sunlight for less than 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour will not cause cancer. So don't worry about that and try to minimize the use of sunscreen. So now that you know what's blocking your androgen receptor sensitivity and density, it's time to talk about how to improve and increase your androgen receptor expression. So firstly, you want to start doing more strength training, specifically training the traps, the neck, and the upper body in general, the shoulders. So training these areas increases your androgen receptor count and density. So training these areas for up to 8 reps, so strength training the traps and the neck, increases androgen receptor count and sensitivity. So make sure you're not overtraining and start training these muscles once or twice a week to get the benefit of increased androgen receptor count. So then we have L-carnitine, and L-carnitine is a nutrient found in red meat. It has been shown to increase androgen receptor count and sensitivity in males. So you want to eat more red meat, more fish, and you can also take it in the form of a supplement, ideally after a workout, because after a strength training workout, because that will massively improve your androgen receptor sensitivity and density and improve the binding of your male hormones to them androgen receptors. Then we have zinc, and zinc is a interesting nutrient because it actually forms part of the androgen receptor, and zinc deficiency has been shown to. And then we have zinc, and zinc is an interesting nutrient because it actually forms part of the androgen receptor itself. So a deficiency in zinc has also been shown to increase estrogen receptors and lower androgen receptors. So you want to take zinc ideally from foods like oysters, red meat again. So zinc is high in them foods, and you can also take it in the form of a supplement, ideally after a workout as well, because it will improve your androgen receptor sensitivity, and you can take it after a workout. You can take around 6 milligrams per day of zinc, and that will give you the most benefit. Another thing you can take is vitamin D, which actually is not a vitamin. It's a steroid hormone, but it's been called a vitamin because it was discovered around 50 to 100 years ago, and they called it a vitamin. But if it was discovered in recent times, it would have actually been called a steroid hormone because of how anabolic it is when it comes to its effect on testosterone, the androgen receptor, and DHT. So you want to take around 2000 IU of vitamin D per day, and if you live in an area where there's not enough sunlight, you can bump up your intake of vitamin D to up to 4000 IU. I personally take around 4000 IU per day of vitamin D, and honestly it has a massive improvement on my energy levels, my focus, my skin, and also my skin tone. And don't just take it in the form of a supplement. You should also be outside and getting your sunlight. Don't worry, it won't cause cancer. Don't stay inside. It's not healthy to be inside all the time. Go outside, get your sunlight, and yeah, you have much better androgen receptor health, masculine hormone health, and you have much better androgen receptor health and hormonal health in general. So that's done. And that's it for today, everyone. If you are interested in this topic and want more videos like this, I have a school community where I dive deeper into these topics and give you specific advice into improving testosterone optimization. So that's it for today, everyone. And if you so that's it for today, everyone. And if this topic interests you, I have a school community linked in the description. So make sure you check that out. And in the school community, I go deeper into this topic and explain more testosterone optimization tactics for teenagers specifically. So make sure you check that out. Goodbye.